Okay, so these are my top 3 games for this Nintendo Switch 2's launch. And this is just my humble opinion, so don't get mad. Feel free to comment your own thoughts in the comments below. At number 3, for me it goes to the Legend of Zelda Tears of the Kingdom Switch 2 edition. Now I know some of you are going to say, oh, that's a Switch 1 game. How can that be? Well, to be honest, I really do enjoy the inclusion of the Zelda notes. I think that is a nice little neat way to integrate the app with the console. Everything runs seamlessly. The way the app connects with the console automatically as soon as the console's turned on is very well done. I think just seeing the upgraded resolutions and textures really makes the game feel like the definitive version. You know, the way how the screen moves, how Link moves, how things move, you know, the loading screens are fewer. It just makes the game really replayable. So I'm replaying Tears of the Kingdom on the Switch 2, but I'm trying to get Minoru first. So I've gone down to the Spirit Temple already. So before I do the other temples, I'm gonna get Minoru first, and the aim is to use her to unravel the depths first, because it'll obviously be easier if you're on Minoru to walk over all the gloom, you know. So it just offers again another way to play. You know, you can share your creations with the Ultra Hand, and there's a nice little bonus feature. It just makes it more likely to complete the game. You know, it gives you more incentive to complete the game, to see things, how they look. You know, it's good to see these little details in the architecture and the zonai structures and stuff like that. So yeah, I think Tears of the Kingdom is the 3rd best game for the Switch 2 launch. At number 2, I'm going to say Cyberpunk 2077. Again, it's just good to have these type of open world games on the Switch console. You know, it's very big, somewhat overwhelming in my opinion, but especially for someone who hasn't experienced the game, it's just a big, meaty game to get into, especially as a launch title. You know, the launch area is usually a time when games are kind of light, right? A lot of demo-y type of games, a lot of short games, but to have a game like Cyberpunk at launch that you can take handheld as well, and a nice looking screen. Yeah, it's just so much to do. You know, there's so much to do in the world. It's so interactive. It's like a GTA. You know, it's like a GTA 5 or something on the Switch 2 as a handheld. You know, it's just a really fun game to play. I'm sure many people who have the time can really put hours into this in a day. You know, really get fully immersed into the world, collect cars, do missions, you know, I just realized you can rent new apartments as your base, which is cool, you know. But in my opinion, the number 1 game for me for the Switch 2 launch is Wind Waker. Yes, a 20-year-old game, but yes, Wind Waker for me is a standout Switch 2 launch title. And obviously, you're going to have to need the online membership expansion, which I think is worth it now with the inclusion of the GameCube games. So I recommend you just, you know, get that, because these GameCube games need to be experienced, because it just adds another layer to the whole Switch 2 experience. You know, we get the Switch 2 games, we get the Switch 2 edition games, which are Switch 1 games that have been revamped, and then we get GameCube games. And in my opinion, GameCube games are far superior in terms of the sort of virtual console offerings in the guise of N64, SNES, and NES. I can't really replay Mega Drive, Genesis, and SNES games. N64 games I can play a bit, but it almost feels like, you know, you're just playing it for a few minutes here and there just to get that nostalgic hit, and then you dump it, you know. And there's also the fact that many of the games don't offer widescreen, so it's like you're playing games with massive borders on the screen. And that's the same thing for Wind Waker, but Wind Waker just feels like a modern game. You know, the fact that the visuals have aged very well, it looks like a very beautiful game. The colors really pop still, which is amazing to think about. Again, a 20-year-old game, but just the adventure in many ways are superior to the recent offerings of Zelda. You know, the adventure starts at a very quick pace, and it's like the tempo just stays up there. There is definitely far more to do in a game like Tears of the Kingdom, but Wind Waker omits all of that extra fluff and allows in exchange for a very good story, a very personable environment. So you can be spending hours sailing the sea, charting the map, finding every little nook and cranny, these little islands, traveling to them to see what you can find. Again, there's not a ton of things to do, but it's just really a wholesome adventure to get into. And for me personally, I've got the Pro Controller, so the GL and the GR buttons provide a more comfortable experience as well, because you can map different items to those buttons. So I think all in all, the charm of Wind Waker has just, for me, been the standout title during the Switch 2 launch. Now, obviously, I'm juggling between Switch 2, Cyberpunk, Street Fighter 6, Tears of the Kingdom, Mario Kart World, but I just think Wind Waker is the greatest experience so far on the Switch 2 launch. Now, speaking of Mario Kart World, personally, I'm not really a Mario Kart guy. For me, Mario Kart has always been a casual affair. I'm not really a great fan of it, to be honest. I think the rubber banding, the game is so frantic, which is good, but it just gives it a big random element to it. It almost feels arcadey, and that's why I got the bundle, because I wouldn't really buy a Mario Kart regardless of whether it's £80 or £50 or £40. I'm just not that type of person that is really into Mario Kart. But it's fun, it's a nice little fun thing, and I think the visuals are very good. The Rainbow Road track is awesome when I played it. Everything just unraveled in this glorious, vibrant, so it is a good game, but I just don't think, for me personally, it's a top 3 experience. It just sits on my Switch 2 home screen, and I'm really juggling mainly between Cyberpunk, Wind Waker, which again is easy to get to because it's on the GameCube quote-unquote virtual console, so it just loads in very quickly. It's there all the time on the Switch, so you don't need to put in a cartridge. But yeah, it's just a very nice, endearing experience, and it obviously provides with that nostalgic hit, but also the standard dungeons. It's just you welcome these things, things that are missing in a lot of the recent Zelda games. So for me, the Wind Waker is the standout Switch 2 launch title. What do you think? What are yours? Let me know in the comments below. I'll catch you in the next one.